Welcome to our audio family. Dear listeners, we are so grateful for every one of you. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. We love hearing from different corners of the world. Your support through likes and subscriptions helps us continue sharing these powerful stories. Now, settle in and enjoy today's gripping tale. Amber Heart. You do realize that without me, you're nothing, right? Artem hissed after another heated argument. Who's going to want you, a single mother with no profession and your silly daydreams? Nadia didn't respond. She just wiped her tears in silence. But that night, in the privacy of her journal, she wrote something that would change everything. Just 1 month later, Nadezhda Yefremova always loved Amber. Look closely, her grandmother would say, placing a golden piece of the fossilized gem in her palm. It's just like you, warm, radiant, and filled with an ancient strength. A little girl, Nadia would marvel at the tiny insect trapped inside, frozen in time for millions of years. How strange, she thought, to be imprisoned inside something so beautiful. Nadia's childhood was full of creativity and freedom. Her father, a painter, her mother, a literature teacher. Their home felt like a cozy bohemian commune. Guests coming and going, lively discussions about Brodsky and Solzhenitsyn, music echoing through the halls. And somehow, in the middle of that wild, poetic chaos, Nadia grew up calm, thoughtful, like amber among sparks. She met Artem in her 3rd year at university. He was tall, confident, a recent law graduate already working at the prosecutor's office. He was everything her artistic world was not, and perhaps that's what drew her to him. Yefremova, you daydream too much, Artem said while reading one of her short stories. Writing isn't a profession, it's a hobby. Real people earn real money. But Chekhov was a doctor and a writer. Nadia replied softly. Exactly. A doctor. And what are you? Years later, she would wonder why she ever agreed to marry him. Maybe it was the grief from her mother's sudden death. Maybe it was the loneliness, or maybe it was just Artem, who never asked, only decided. We'll get married in June. I'll take care of everything. Just pick a dress, he told her. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. His mother, Maria Petrovna, greeted Nadia with a cold smile and unblinking eyes. My Temyachka is a golden boy, she said as she poured tea into fine porcelain cups. I gave everything for him to become a real man. My husband, God rest his soul, left us when Artem was 10. Nadia felt her future mother-in-law sizing her up, from her shoes to how she held her cup. And even then, Nadia knew. She had already failed this silent test. The wedding was grand. Exactly how Artem wanted. Limousines, a fancy restaurant, and 200 guests, most of whom Nadia didn't even know. Her father stood awkwardly in his old jacket, looking out of place among tuxedos and glittering gowns. Are you happy, my little girl? He asked gently during the father-daughter dance. Yes, Papa, Nadia lied, as something inside her quietly broke. The cracks in their marriage appeared quickly. Artem expected a perfect wife for his perfect life, a woman who could entertain important guests, dress flawlessly, and discuss politics and finance on cue. Why did you wear that to dinner with the Vinogradovs? He snapped as they returned home. You looked like a librarian. And who exactly are the Vinogradovs? Nadia asked wearily. My God, Nadia, I told you, he's the deputy prosecutor. When she became pregnant, Artem surprised her. Happy. He read parenting books, gently touched her growing belly, and even started renovating the nursery. For the first time in a long while, Nadia had hope. Maybe, just maybe, a child would bring them closer, turn their tense home into a sanctuary. Their son, Alexander, was born on a freezing January night. With deep, thoughtful eyes, he instantly captured Nadia's heart. Artem softened too. My son, he whispered proudly, holding the baby. My heir. Maria Petrovna soon moved in to help. At first, Nadia was thankful, but it didn't take long before the rules started. Nadia, babies need schedules. I raised Artem without all your trendy theories about feeding on demand. Look how well he turned out. When Nadia tried to push back, her mother-in-law sighed dramatically and turned to Artem. Temyaka, explain things to your wife. She doesn't listen to me. But Nadia was listening. To everything. And what she wrote in her diary that night wasn't just a random entry. It was a decision, a spark. A woman trapped in amber can still burn. And of course Artyom always took his mother's side. Maybe that's when Nadezhda began keeping a diary, a simple leather-bound notebook her father once gave her. It became the only place where she could still be herself. At night, while the house lay in silence, she wrote about her fears, her dreams, and that strange feeling she couldn't shake, that life was quietly passing her by. Today I saw a young woman in the park, she once scribbled. She was sitting on a bench, drawing just for herself. I felt such envy, it nearly made me cry. When was the last time I did something for myself? By the time Alexander turned 3, he had become a bright, curious child with wild, dark curls. He loved to draw, clearly inheriting his grandfather's talent. Artyom watched his son's drawings with a mix of pride and unease. He's a smart boy, he'd say, but I hope he grows out of this artistic nonsense. When Nadezhda's father fell ill, Artyom refused to let him stay in their spacious apartment. We have our own lives, Nadia. Hire him a nurse. With what money, she asked. You know his pension barely covers his medicine. Not my problem, Artyom snapped. He should have planned better for old age. So she visited her father daily, bringing food, medicine, reading to him. One evening, as she was about to leave, he gently held her hand. Nadyenka. You're not happy. I'm fine, Papa, she whispered, lying out of habit. No, daughter. I remember the way your eyes used to shine. Do you still dream of writing books? What happened to that little girl? Back home, Artyom was waiting, furious. Where the hell have you been? I come home. No dinner. Sasha hasn't bathed. The place is a mess. I was with my father. He's not doing well, and I don't care. I work my fingers to the bone so you two can live in comfort. And you can't handle the basics? Startled by the shouting, little Alexander ran into the room, eyes brimming with tears. Papa, don't yell at Mama. Artyom spun around. And in that instant, Nadezhda saw something terrifying in his eyes. Go to your room. Now. The boy, sobbing, obeyed. And then Artyom turned back to her, gripping her shoulders hard. You're turning my son against me. Do you even realize? You're nothing without me? Who'd want you, a woman with no career and a child? Living in some fantasy? She wiped her tears in silence. But that night her diary held a line that would change everything. Amber is beautiful, but it traps you. And I've been an insect in a golden prison for far too long. I have to break. Free before Sasha becomes a prisoner too. Her father died on a gray, rain-soaked Wednesday. She was holding his cooling hand when his breath stopped. And with it, the last string connecting her to the life she once knew. Artyom didn't attend the funeral. There was a critical meeting. Only Alexander stood by her side, unnervingly, silent with a maturity far beyond his years. When they returned home, Nadezhda found her mother-in-law already reigning in the kitchen. I figured I'd make dinner, Maria Petrovna said with that special tone, the one that twisted even kindness into accusation. That evening, Artyom arrived with expensive whiskey and artificial sympathy. Nadia, pull yourself together. Life goes on, he said, pouring his second glass. My father died today, she replied quietly. And what, you'll wallow for months now? You have a child, a family, responsibilities. Artyom, she snapped, do you have any shred of compassion? And do you have an ounce of gratitude? He shot back. I give you everything a woman could want, and you're never satisfied. Maria quietly disappeared into the kitchen, but Nadezhda knew she was listening to every word. The unwanted daughter-in-law, once again showing her ingratitude. Meanwhile, Alexander had slipped out of his room, quietly taken the amber brooch, the last gift from his grandfather to his mother, and disappeared again. Later, as Nadezhda lay in bed, she found it under her pillow. Beside it was a small note in a child's handwriting, "Mama, don't cry, I love you." That night, unable to sleep, Nadezhda stared at the ceiling, thinking of her son. Despite his young age, Sasha had already learned how to read the room, to measure the mood of the house by the sound of his father's footsteps. And in that silence, a decision began to take shape, one that would change both their lives forever. He used to be just a boy, until his father found the journal. What happened next shattered everything. Sasha, once a cheerful child, had become strangely quiet, especially when his father Artyom was home. He would shrink into the corners of the house, as if trying to disappear. At school, his teacher had recently pulled his mother, Nadezhda, aside. "Your son is very talented," she said gently, "but his drawings, they're disturbing. Faceless figures, gray houses, black windows. It's as if he's trying to show us something he's too scared to say out loud." Artyom had just waved it off. "Cartoons. He watches too many monster shows." But Nadezhda knew her son didn't watch anything like that. He wasn't drawing fantasies. He was drawing his fears. The next morning, Nadezhda did something she'd never dared to do before. She spoke the word that had been building in her chest for years: divorce. "You've lost your mind," Artyom laughed coldly. "Your nerves are fried after your father died. Let's talk when you're sane again." But she was more sane now than she had been in years. For the first time, she saw her marriage for what it truly was: a prison. Years of humiliation, isolation, constant tension, walking on eggshells. Never knowing which word might set him off. "I'm serious, Artyom," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't live like this anymore." "And how exactly will you live?" His eyes narrowed dangerously. "No education, no job, no money. You think I'll let you take Sasha, with your emotional breakdowns? What are you saying?" She whispered. "I'm a lawyer," he grinned. "And I've got proof of your instability, witnesses, audio, my mother's testimony. She saw how you screamed at Sasha." Nadezhda froze. She had never screamed at her son, but how could she fight? A man with power, with connections, with a mother ready to lie under oath? "You wouldn't try leaving me," Artyom whispered, "and you'll see." That was the beginning of the worst months of her life. She was terrified to act openly, but too determined to give up. Her escape had to be quiet, careful, calculated, step. She found a job at a small bookstore. The pay was low, but it was a start. Artyom allowed it with a smug smile. "Play shop if you want. Keeps you busy." That's where she met Vera, a silver-haired woman with sharp eyes and a past life as a family lawyer. "You're in trouble, sweetheart," Vera said after just one glance. "I've seen that look before. Tell me everything." And she did. About Artyom, his threats, the fear of losing her son, the toxic alliance with her manipulative mother-in-law. "Honey, your husband is a textbook abuser," Vera said. "And you're right to be afraid. Men like him use children as weapons, but there's a way out, and we're going to take it." Together, they crafted a plan. Vera connected her with a real attorney and taught her how to build a case. Nadezhda began secretly recording Artyom's outbursts, documenting his aggression, collecting school notes that proved she was a loving, capable mother. "Don't let him suspect," Vera warned. "Let him think he's already broken you." And so Nadezhda played the part. She became the perfect wife, cooked his favorite meals, smiled at his colleagues during corporate events, didn't argue with his mother, not even when she sneered, finally acting like a real woman. Even Artyom relaxed. He believed his threats had worked. For her birthday, he bought her expensive earrings. He even allowed Sasha to join an art program. "Let him paint," Artyom said smugly. "He'll be a lawyer like me anyway." But Sasha thrived in the art school. His talent shone bright enough to earn him a place in a citywide exhibition. Nadezhda beamed with pride as she watched her son's watercolor landscape displayed under gallery lights. "He's just like his grandfather," she whispered, wiping away a tear. Artyom didn't come. "Urgent meeting," he claimed. Truthfully, his absence brought relief. It gave Nadezhda and Sasha a rare moment of peace, free from judgment, control, and fear. But peace is fragile. That night they returned home to a nightmare. Artyom was already there, drunk, eyes burning. In his hand, he held a notebook, her journal. "What the hell is this?" he snarled, waving it like a weapon. "You call me a monster? You're planning to steal my son?" Nadezhda's blood ran cold. The journal had been hidden deep in an old armchair. How had he found it? Fear washed over her. Not fear of being hit, but fear of what he could take from her. Sasha was now 7, and in the past few months, Artyom had changed. His recent promotion to deputy district prosecutor had fed his ego beyond reason. He was drunk on power. At home, he was no longer just abusive. He was a tyrant. That night, as Sasha clutched his sketchpad, unaware of the storm rising behind the walls, Nadezhda stood, frozen. She knew this was it. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about saving her son. "No," Artyom said coldly. "Let him stay. Let him see what kind of mother he has." "Mom," the boy whispered, his voice trembling. "It's okay, sweetheart," Nadezhda said softly. "Please, go to your room." Sensing danger, she discreetly pressed record on her hidden phone. It was a backup she had carefully prepared, a new phone bought with secret savings, hidden inside an old wallet Artyom never bothered to check. For months now, Nadezhda had been quietly preparing for escape, collecting evidence of the man Artyom had become. As the door clicked shut behind their son, Artyom lunged forward, grabbing her by the hair. "You think I wouldn't find out?" he growled. "Trying to betray me, steal my son?" "Artyom, you're hurting me, let go." "Hurting you," he snarled. "You don't even know what pain is, but I'll show you." He raised his hand to strike her, but he never got the chance. With a sudden blur of motion, Alexander burst into the room, grabbing his father's arm with surprising strength for a child. "Don't touch my mom," he screamed. Artyom shoved the boy aside. Alexander flew backward, crashing into the corner of a table. His small body hit the floor with a sickening thud. Nadezhda screamed and rushed to him. Blood trickled down from his temple. "Oh God, Sasha," she cried, pulling him into her arms. "We need to get to the hospital now." "No hospital," Artyom barked, the panic creeping into his voice. "It's just a scratch. We'll clean it up, that's all." Alexander was trembling, not just from pain, but from something deeper. In that moment, something in his young mind shifted. He no longer looked at his father with fear. He looked at him with cold understanding, the way a person sees through a mask for the first time. His face, usually so open and childlike, was now closed off. Older. Wiser. "He needs a doctor," Nadezhda said again, voice shaking. I said, "No hospital," Artyom shouted. "You know what happens if you take him there? Questions, police, child services." Alexander whimpered softly, clinging to his mother. Nadezhda knew then. This was it. No more chances. No more time. "All right," she said gently. "No hospital. Just give me the first aid kit." Moment he stepped out, she leaned into her son. "Sasha," she whispered, "listen to me very carefully. We're leaving, right now, for good, do you understand?" He nodded. His eyes, still wet with tears, now held a steel-like resolve. "Dad won't let us go." "He will," Nadezhda said, steady and fierce. "Because this time, I have proof." She pulled the phone from her pocket. The recording had been running since the moment they walked in the door. Artyom returned, watching Nadezhda tend to the boy's wound. "This is all your fault," he muttered. "You pushed me, you and your stupid recordings." "The journal was in the safe," Nadezhda said suddenly, surprising even herself with her calmness. "Only I have the key. How did you get it?" "Maria Petrovna helped me," he sneered. "Of course. Who else?" Nadezhda thought bitterly. "I'm leaving, Artyom, and I'm taking Sasha with me." "You're not going anywhere," he smirked, but the certainty in his voice was gone. "I am," she said, rising to her feet. "And if you try to stop me, or ever come near us again, this recording goes straight to the police. Your boss, and every newsroom in the city. What do you think will happen to the career of a promising lawyer after a scandal like that?" Artyom paled. "You're bluffing. What recording?" Nadezhda pressed play. His own drunken voice filled the room. Threats, a child's cry. The impact. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I would. Her voice was quiet but powerful. You only ever had power when I was afraid. But I'm not afraid anymore. That night they left, Nadezhda, Alexander, and a small suitcase packed, with only what they needed. As they walked through the quiet streets, the boy clutched a small amber brooch, his grandfather's. Where are we going, Mama? To Aunt Vera, she said. She promised to help. And after that, she smiled, squeezing his hand. Then, we start a new life. A real one. She never looked back at the house that had been her golden cage for 7 long years. In her mind, a line from her journal echoed, Amber is beautiful. But it's a trap. For too long I was the insect caught inside. Nadezhda looked down at her son and whispered, But sometimes, Sasha, even from Amber you can break free. 10 years passed like a single breath. And Nadezhda remembered. That night not as an ending, but the first step in finally learning how to live. The first few months were the hardest. A cramped room in Vera's apartment, endless job searches, and the constant fear that Artyom would break their silent agreement and try to take Sasha away. But he never did. Maybe it was the recording, his voice full of threats, the sound of him lashing out at his own son. That kept him at bay. Or maybe, as Vera once said, Artyom cared more about his image as a successful man than the responsibilities of fatherhood. Men like him replace people like trophies, Vera had muttered. He doesn't need a woman, he needs a prize. She was right. 6 months later, Artyom filed for divorce, citing mutual consent. Through mutual acquaintances, Nadia learned he had already moved in with someone new, a young, ambitious prosecutor's assistant named Kira. She was everything. Nadia wasn't. Strategic, polished, from a well-connected family. Poor girl, Nadia thought. She has no idea what's coming. The divorce was surprisingly smooth. Artyom even agreed to child support, though just the bare minimum. Nadia didn't. Fight for more. Freedom was worth far more than money. A year later, she earned a promotion at the bookstore, manager. Another year, and she founded a small literary club within the shop. To everyone's surprise, it quickly became the talk of the town. Then something unexpected happened. One of the club's regulars turned out to be an editor at a publishing house. After reading Nadia's stories, he looked up, his expression lit with genuine admiration. You have a beautiful narrative voice, Nadia. Have you ever thought about writing for children? And just like that, a new chapter of her life began. Her first book, a collection of fairy tales, was a surprise success. Then came the second and the third. By the time she was 35, Nadia Efremova had become a celebrated children's author, complete with a regular column in a popular magazine. Her son, Alexander, now 16, with serious eyes and a deep love for art, was proud of his mother. He had even illustrated her latest book, Grandfather's Talent. The title wasn't just about the story. It hinted at something deeper, something that lived on in Sasha, despite the shadows of the past. Mom, do you remember when we ran away? He asked one evening, sketching a new illustration. I thought we'd die from hunger or freeze on the streets. Nadia smiled, forcing strength into her voice. I always believed we'd make it, but that wasn't true. Back then she had been terrified. She just never let her son see it. Sasha set his brush aside and spoke, his voice unexpectedly steady. You? Oh, I remember everything. She looked at him, startled. Every shout, every slammed door. I remember hiding in the closet when he came home drunk. Nadia flinched. They rarely spoke of those days. I used to think that was normal, he continued, that every family lived like that. Then one day at school, I saw Misha's dad hug his mom, just like that, for no reason. She smiled, and I realized something wasn't right in our home. I'm so sorry, she whispered. No, Mom, don't be. He stood and gently hugged her. You saved us, both times, when you left him and when you didn't let me become like him. She closed her eyes, holding back tears. He was right. Sasha had gone through a rough phase as a teenager, quick to anger, quick to lash out just like his father. But she hadn't ignored it. She had fought for her son's soul. "I still remember that day I smashed a plate," Sasha said, as if reading her mind. "You didn't yell. You just looked at me and said, 'Look at yourself, you're acting exactly like him.' I was scared," he admitted. "Scared I really was becoming him." "Breaking the cycle is never easy," Nadia whispered. "But you did it." "We did," he corrected gently. A sudden knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Nadia opened it and froze. Standing there was Maria Petrovna, Artyom's mother, aged, trembling, her eyes dull like faded glass. "Hello, Nadia," she said quietly. "May I come in?" Nadia stepped aside silently. They hadn't seen each other in nearly 10 years. From the hallway, Sasha appeared. He stopped cold, staring at the woman he barely remembered. "Sasha," the old woman whispered, "you've grown so much." "What happened, Maria Petrovna?" Nadia asked, breaking the heavy silence. "It's Artyom," she said. "He's gone. A stroke. We buried him yesterday." Nadia felt a strange emptiness. Not grief, not joy. Just closure. The final line of a story long finished. "I'm sorry," she said sincerely. "You have my condolences." "I didn't come for that," the older woman replied, fumbling. In her bag, she pulled out an envelope. "These are the documents for the country house. Artyom left it to Sasha in his will. The very same country house where Maria used to grow tomatoes with her own hands, a place once filled with summer light and memories, both good and dark. Now it belonged to her son. Do you remember?" Maria Petrovna's voice trembled with a bitter edge. "I know. He wasn't the best father, but he did love his son. In his own twisted way." Alexander spoke for the first time in hours. "Grandma, why didn't you ever protect us from him?" The old woman looked down, ashamed. "I didn't want to believe it," she whispered. "Not about my boy." Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "After you both left, for a long time I blamed Nadia. I convinced myself she ruined him. Pushed him too far," she paused. "But then I saw it with my own eyes, the way he treated Kira. The shouting, the insults, the night he raised his hand at her." She clenched her jaw. "I tried to stop him. He shoved me out of the room like I was nothing. And for the first time, I knew I'd been wrong. All those years." A silence followed, thick with regret. "I'm sorry, Sasha and Nadia. If you can, I'm sorry to you too." They drank tea in silence. Maria Petrovna's eyes wandered to the bookshelf, where Nadia's books stood neatly aligned. "I always knew you. We're talented," she said suddenly. "Maybe that's what scared Artem. He was always afraid that he wasn't enough." When she finally left, Alexander turned to his mother. "Mom, did you forgive her?" Nadia looked out the window for a long time. "I don't think she'll ever forgive herself," she said quietly. "And that is worse than any punishment we could ever give her." Life went on. Alexander got into an arts academy and started dating a sweet, smart girl studying art history. Nadia published a memoir, a raw, honest novel that shook people. TV stations invited her to speak. Conferences on domestic abuse called her a symbol of survival, of a woman who escaped, rebuilt, and rose. "How did you not break?" journalists always asked her. "I thought of my son," she said. "And I had my Amber," she smiled. Do you know what makes amber so special? Despite its beauty, it's incredibly fragile. One strong blow, and it shatters. Sometimes that's the only way to free what's been trapped inside. One morning, Nadia's phone rang. It was Vera. "Did you watch the news?" "No. Why?" "Kira, Artem's second wife. She gave, a full interview about everything. The years of abuse, the bruises, the fear." Nadia closed her eyes. God, how I wanted to be wrong about him, she thought. How I wanted to believe he could change. There had been rumors. Of course, whispers after the divorce about Artem's new relationships, his co-workers murmuring about a younger woman from the prosecutor's office. 2 months later, Nadia saw her, tall, poised, confident. She sat in a cafe, laughing, unaware. Nadia considered approaching her, to warn her, to tell her everything, but something held her back. Maybe hope. Hope that this time things might be different, that people can change. They separated 3 months before he died. Vera continued over the phone, and the worst part? When Kira finally told his mother, "Do you know what she said?" Nadia stayed silent. She said, "Be patient, he doesn't mean it." But then, she helped Kira pack. Quietly, no judgment, just helped her get out. And she's pregnant, Nadia. She's going to raise the child alone. That evening, Nadia dialed Kira's number. They spoke until morning. 2 women bound by a man who broke one and nearly destroyed the other. But in their voices, there wasn't just pain. There was understanding and strength. "I don't have much," Nadia said, "but is there anything I can do for you?" "Did I really help you?" Nadezhda asked softly, just before saying goodbye. Kira smiled. "You already did. You showed me it's possible to break free." 5 more years passed. Alexander got married. Nadezhda became a grandmother, and when she first held the tiny newborn girl in her arms, she couldn't hold back the tears. They had named the baby Nadezhda, Hope, just like her. "How symbolic," she whispered, cradling the delicate bundle close to her chest. That afternoon, she opened a small wooden box she hadn't touched in years. Inside lay the amber brooch, her father's last gift, a silent witness to everything she had endured and overcome. With trembling fingers, Nadezhda pinned the brooch to the dress of her tiny namesake. "What are you doing?" asked her daughter-in-law, a warm and graceful young woman with the gentlest eyes. "I'm passing on the torch," Nadezhda replied with a soft smile. "You know, amber is called the stone of rebirth. Once it helped me find my way out of the darkness. Now I hope it protects her, not from sorrow, but for joy." That evening, Nadezhda stood at the window for a long time, watching the sun sink behind the horizon. Life is strange, she thought. Sometimes the deepest pain becomes your greatest strength. Sometimes you have to walk through fire, to build your own paradise. The next morning, she opened a blank notebook and began to write again. The title on the first page read, "The Amber Heart." I hope you enjoyed my story. If it touched you in any way, please support us with a like and a subscription. It truly gives our team the strength and inspiration to create new stories for you, every single day. Please forgive any slips in pronunciation or wording. I'm growing and improving with each passing day. Take care of yourselves and be happy.